valuable part of the educational process and to promote the development of good habits. Students are expected to attend class sessions, participate in class discussion, and complete course requirements. So we'll look forward to you being here in class. Good morning, Derek.
Sorry, T-Dog was holding me up.
T-Dog?
He's saying Tony.
Oh, my goodness.
My boss.
Okay. I didn't know he could be referred to as T-Dog. Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good. We're on page 2, Derek, working
Okay.
through the assignments and requirements. All right. So, attendance and participation is 10% of the grade. Required reading for the class and the book reports. The first book that we're going to read through, note that we're going to go in this order. We're going to do this one first, okay? Preaching the New Testament. That book report will be due on February the 22nd. And Give Them Christ, that book report will be due on April the 26th. All right? Book reports, if you've had me in class, you know that I like to receive those by way of, I haven't joined the Canvas generation yet. I'm hoping to do that before I leave this world. But for this semester, if you will send your assignments to me via email as an attachment, all right? And then I'll print it off and I'll give you some feedback on. The book reports in this case are to be 2 to 4 pages. That is 600 to 1,200 words in length, double spaced. Basically, what I'm looking for in a book report is this, that I want to see that you've read the text, and I'd like for you to share with me how you interact with the book. What do you think about it? But more than what you think about it, how is it going to impact your preaching from the New Testament? What insights have you gained that are going to help you in preaching from a New Testament text? That's the key to a good grade. So reading the books and doing the book reports, 30% of your grade. The biggest part of the grade is the sermons. We're at a point in your development as preachers that I feel like the sermons need to be like the vast majority of the grade during the semester. So the sermons, each student will have an opportunity to preach in class 4 times. Standard preaching expectations apply. Sermons in the case of this class should be 20 to 25 minutes in length. A student will be expected to hone their exegetical, that is their biblical interpretation skills, as well as their communication skills. In other words, I encourage you to be creative. Point number 1 under this, each sermon must be from a different type of New Testament literary genre. So we're going to talk about that more as we get to but we will have, like in general, the first sermon will be from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I haven't decided yet, but I may actually just pick the genre for you. And by genre, I'm talking like, is it a narrative text? Is it a teaching text? In the case of the Gospels, is it a parable? We'll talk about that more later. Secondly, each sermon will be in full manuscript form. By that I mean, I recognize that some of you are outliners and others of you are more the full written out manuscript. I want more than just like a very simple outline. I want it fleshed out as much as you possibly can. That's why I use the word manuscript instead of outline. And what I'd like for you to do is to, in addition to preparing a copy of this for me, I'd like for you to prepare a copy of your sermon for everybody in the class too, so that we will have the opportunity to take your work with us wherever we go. You know, we're anticipating that we're going to have some great sermons that are, you know, we will give you due credit. We will. We will all do that. But not so much for the sake of, I'm not thinking in terms of copying each other's work, but I'm talking about in terms of having material that will help us in terms of our own creativity in preaching. Your grade on the sermon will be a combination of both your preaching it, presenting it in class, as well as the written format, the manuscript. During the preaching of the class, every sermon will be evaluated by your fellow class members and me. And there are 3 questions that I'd like for us to think about, as well as a rating system. The first question is, does it reflect the assigned genre? Which should be pretty apparent. Was the interpretation in the sermon, was it sound and orthodox? You guys ought to be far enough in your own development of faith that you're able to recognize whether if it's a legitimate use of the text or not. And then thirdly, how did the creative elements lend to the presentation and or application of the teaching material? So that's another question to ask is, what about it lended to the presentation itself being effective, and especially the application? The grading rubric will be as follows. Evidence of grammatical, historical, and literary considerations. In other words, is there any indication when we listen and read the sermon that you've done some research regarding those things? Introduction that captures attention and declares the need for the sermon. In other words, a good, strong introduction. A propositional statement that's clear, concise, and correct, tells us what the sermon is going to be about. Transitional sentences that utilize a key word or phrase. Are there like signposts along the way that let us know where the sermon is going, that you're transitioning from one point to the next? The main points, balanced and clear, and the subpoints as well. Illustrations that are necessary and appropriate. In other words, don't just tell a story to be telling a story, but include illustrations that are necessary and appropriate. A conclusion with appropriate exhortation, encouragement, application. All of that has to do with the content of the sermon. Now, with regard to the delivery of the sermon, some additional things that we will be assessing, like your voice projection. That is what the volume, and do you vary the volume of your voice? Articulation, do you enunciate or not? That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when you can audibly hear something coming out of somebody's mouth, but you cannot discern what they're saying because they fail to enunciate. I want you to enunciate. Voice rate and pitch, the speed with which you speak, and up and down the scale so that it doesn't sound monotone. Eye contact and facial expression, and then body language, all of those things 10%. Now, these 4 sermons are going to total up to 60% of your final grade. So 15% of each of your grade is represented by each of these sermons. Okay? And these sermons are used to fulfill the specific learning objective for the pastoral ministry major curriculum, which is to communicate biblical truth to a local congregation using sound preaching principles that glorify Christ and edify the church. Now, other expectations and requirements. No late work. Here's the thing. When you're preaching, like in a church, like if you're assigned to do the sermon on Sunday, no matter what your life is like the week before, you can't get up in front of the congregation and say, I'm sorry I didn't have time to do my sermon. You can't do that. Not and remain employed. So, now some of you know when I say no late work, that's not like absolutely no late work. But if you turn in late work, it's going to be marked down considerably. So turn in your work on time. I sound a lot worse than I really am. On the cell phone scene, please do not use your cell phone. You don't need to text message during class, and you do not need to check Facebook or Twitter, although I have been known to allow people to tweet things if they think I say something remarkable.
Which
I'm
you do.
cool with that. Oh, I do occasionally, very occasionally. Thank you, Hannah Mae.
You're very welcome.
Computers are to be used in the class, but not for checking what we just talked about. So if you're using them like to take notes and so forth, that's great. As far as food and drink is concerned, please try to have food eaten before you get to class. And, water is fine, and actually coffee is fine too. Just don't spill it all over everything, okay? I sound so crabby, don't I, Hannah?
I already did.
You already spilled it all over everything? Gosh.
I spilled, but I took care of it.
Did you? Thank you. Is that why you got, okay.
Somebody buys cheap cups around here.
Are you
That's
the
you.
purchasing agent?
Yeah, he is.
He is the purchasing agent. Good grief. All right.
When you're cheap, you act cheap.
Mm-hmm. Take notes at every lecture. When it comes to preaching, dress appropriately for the preaching sessions. Now, this semester, what I'd like for us to do is to think in terms of we are going to be preaching at a Sunday morning worship service with people of all ages. In the past, I have said well, if you do youth ministry, you can dress like a youth person. But this semester, I think I'd like for us to do what you would wear on a Sunday morning. Now, that does not mean a suit necessarily or a tie. And Hannah, you don't have to get all dressed up either, unless you want to, And sometimes getting all dressed up feels pretty good. But anyway, no holy blue jeans, please. And by holy, I don't mean HOLY. I'm talking about HOLEY. No holy jeans. No shorts. Of course, in January, if you want to wear shorts, that probably is fine.
It's supposed to be 60 degrees warmer on Friday.
It's what I hear. It's what I'm hearing. It's supposed to be really nice
It better be.
on Friday. All right. A student is expected to demonstrate the highest Christian character and academic integrity. Student is expected to do personal work and to acknowledge the source of another person's words, ideas, statistics, or other materials, which is what we were kind of alluding to earlier. It's good to show that you're doing research, but a sermon, by the way, is not a research paper. So it's different than an academic paper where you do research and cite sources and all that kind of stuff. But when you do quote somebody, be sure to give credit to whom credit is due. If you get an idea from somebody, share who you got that idea from. Because we have here at the college, we do not allow for plagiarism. All right, so today, in terms of the format, the plan, and the schedule, and at this point, we should be pretty well set. I don't think we'll have any additional class members added. So today is the syllabus day, overview and orientation. So you'll get out of class early today, more than likely. The next 3 classes, we're going to be talking about preaching from the Gospels. We are going to focus on the Gospels more than any other part of the Bible in this class for a couple of reasons. One, there is an awful lot of content in the first 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and there's a lot of variety of content in terms of literary genres. And of course, this is about Jesus. And I've always been one who feels like a preacher's plan should be very Christ-centered. So we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the Gospels and the Gospel within the Gospels. On the 30th, and we're going to do this, we're going to have one class period before every round of preaching where we're going to do what I call sermon collaboration, where we are going to work together on our sermons. I found this to be one of the most helpful things in terms of developing my preaching, is to have other people involved in the planning and especially in the, like, when you're putting it together, to get the input of other people could be really very beneficial. Now, the first round of preaching then will start on February the 1st. That's the plan. So they have 2 volunteers for February the 1st. All right, Alec has volunteered, and who else? All right,
I'll
I'm
do
gonna,
it.
what?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Hannah. And by the way, what that means is you two will preach that day, and we will give you immediate feedback that day too. We'll all fill out a critique sheet. I'll have a sheet that gives you an opportunity to write down thoughts and assessment. And we'll do that right there that day. All right, February the 6th, sermons 3 and 4. Who would like to volunteer? Okay, we have Ian.
Who else are we missing?
We're missing Evan.
And Drew Rawlings.
On February the
Hey, buddy.
8th, I already have Drew Rawlings, who has requested that, and we're gonna put Evan there. If you're okay with going on the 13th,
Yeah, that's right, I had them.
right before Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I'm gonna preach on love though.
Oh, good.
I think you should. It'd be beautiful.
Valentine's Day.
I don't know if I wanna hear it in front of you.
Hmm?
What?
What'd you say?
I don't remember.
It's my wife's birthday.
I'm gonna preach on
It's my wife's
it.
birthday.
Jesus loved you, but I'm not gonna preach on it.
Hey,
Which day, 13th?
well,
Well, we need to get her up here.
we
I could
do.
do a whole sermon series on Marcia.
I know, I'm sure you could. It would be a wonderful series.
If she wants to bring cookies with, I wouldn't be upset.
I'll have to figure out how to do cookies, because you may have noticed there are no exams in this course.
I did not notice that.
But now it
And
is.
there's no final exam in this
How
course.
about sermon collaborations?
I could.
What?
I mean, that's 4 times, but, I mean, sermon collaborations would be a good time for.
That'd be a good time to munch on
Circle up
cookies.
And have cookies.
That's a good idea, Derek.
Talk about ourselves.
Let me give that prayerful consideration.
Derek, I have good ideas. That was that face. Somebody told me I have good ideas.
All right,
Is Cody not telling you that?
February the 15th. Are we all together?
Yep.
Preaching from the book of Acts. Now, why are we spending time focusing on a single book like the book of Acts? Well, the book of Acts, I think, is really, and I think it's, of course, all the books of the New Testament are important, or they wouldn't be there, but I think it's extraordinarily important. Because we have an opportunity to see what the preaching of the early church was like there. We get to see how the Holy Spirit moved and Christianity spread over the Roman Empire within a generation. I think it's just really some great stuff in there that I think is very applicable to the church today. So we'll do that. Then we'll do sermon collaboration on the 20th, which is, by the way, not that anybody needs to pay attention to this, but I will point out that my birthday is on the February the 19th. So we won't actually have class on my birthday, but anyway. On the 22nd, we'll start the second round of preaching. And your preaching the New Testament book report will be due. By the way, when I say it's due, if you've had me in class before, you know that means it's due at midnight that day. It's due at midnight. So Thursday night at midnight is when your book report needs to be in. You don't have to turn it in by class that day. All right, who would like to go? Well, you guys would, Alec and Hannah like to go lead off again?
Sure.
All right,
That's enthusiasm ringing. Sure.
I like the enthusiasm.
I'll have more enthusiasm when I actually am on time to class next.
I guess.
Yes, I have to tell you, I was a
You
little,
weren't volunteering. Do you want to do it?
Sure.
okay, and then on the 27th and the 1st of March, there is no class because of the intensive week.
But we'll be with you anyway.
Well, yes, 3 of you will be with me during intensive week. Yes,
Evan.
it's Alec.
Oh.
Hey, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
classes
Evangelism and outreach ministry.
you guys gonna need a vehicle?
We are gonna need a vehicle. Well, maybe,
Yeah, we can get there.
maybe, we'll see. We're only gonna have 3 in the class.
I've got a minivan.
And 2 of the days I can drive.
Oh.
3, there's, on a Tuesday, we might need a vehicle, unless one of these guys wants to volunteer their vehicle. Cause you're gonna come to L-Town on
Lincoln.
Tuesday.
Can we go class trip to Honest Abe's?
Honest Abe's, I think we're gonna eat Mexican that day.
Okay, that's fine.
We're gonna, yeah, remember, we're kinda trying to, anyway.
I can do Mexican.
Well, we're gonna visit a church and then go to a restaurant right across the street from it. It's pretty good. All right. Getting so old here. All right, Ian and Devin,
Still young.
are you okay with March 6th?
Yes. If we must.
And we're gonna put Drew and Evan on the 8th.
You must.
Then there's spring break, and then March the 20th, we'll have Derek. Okay? All right. We're going to Haiti over spring break this year. March and I are. Visit our son. Okay, March the 22nd, which is Thursday, we're gonna have a panel discussion. It looks like I'll have Haynes and Dr. Krause joining me. And we're gonna talk about preaching during Holy Week, like Palm Sunday and during Holy Week itself leading up to Easter. Easter, by the way, is on April 1st this year, which I think is kind of funny. April Fool's Day is Easter. Okay,
Just kidding.
all right, and then preaching, we'll have 2 lectures on preaching from the epistles. We're gonna do one day with Paul's epistles, and then another day, the other day we will deal with the other epistles. John, Peter, the book of Hebrews, the book of James, etc. Then on the 3rd, we'll do sermon collaboration, and then we'll start the 3rd round, which, can we just continue to follow the,
Except for Drew, I think Drew and I need to switch. right?
yeah, we'll switch you guys.
So I'll be the 17th.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Alec and Hannah on the 5th, Ian and Devin on the 10th. Derek and Evan on the 12th. I certainly
No,
hope
the
Evan.
17th.
Yeah. Excuse me. I got on the wrong line. No class, campus life day.
Got him.
So Evan and Derek on the 17th, and then Drew will be on the 19th. And then we will, on the 24th, do preaching from the book of Revelation.
Yikes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I know you are.
Come on.
It is. Last time I did this class, I heard some really bizarre stuff. So that was fun.
It's a bizarre book.
It is a bizarre book. It's an awesome book, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just read through it recently.
How'd that go?
What?
How'd it go?
Great.
Great.
I skimmed through it.
I do the Through the Bible in a year. I
Mhm.
do a reading program, and the book of Revelation is, it has 4 readings. My program has 4 readings from different parts of the Bible.
Oh, I get
I
through
saw a tweet this on
You're set now.
January 1st that said, congratulations everybody reading Genesis 1 today.
Yeah,
Hey.
pretty good.
It's pretty funny.
It was a great day.
All right, so we're gonna talk about preaching from the book of Revelation, and then on the 26th, we'll have sermon collaboration and book report number 2, which is Give Them Christ. And then we'll do our last round. So we'll have Ian, no, Alec and Hannah on
May 1st.
May 1st.
May Day, which is why I'm preaching. You're welcome.
Maybe you'll ask him.
Are you gonna say that?
If I remember.
Mayday, Mayday, that's like the emergency, the panic. Isn't that the notification that you're going down, like?
Yep.
And you say Mayday before you hit the ground.
Now you have an idea of everybody's thoughts and feelings when I walk into a room.
Don't you worry, we'll scream it.
Maybe,
Oh, I know.
maybe not.
Oh,
Maybe.
I see what you did there.
Ian and Devin, May the 3rd. Evan and Derek on the 8th. And Drew will be on May 10th. Very good. Any questions so far? We doing all right?
Yeah, who's gonna video me next week?
Didn't you ask me to?
How are you gonna do both?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll need to figure out how we're gonna do that.
Can,
Is he sitting there?
I
well,
need somebody to video me on Tuesday,
Can-
Thursday, Tuesday.
can Google Hangouts do more than one person? If you were to get Google Hangouts, I think you can video chat two people at the same time, have it like a group chat. I can do that. I've got my
What are
iPad.
you on right now?
No, this is just my Dell. I'm taking a video
Hi,
recording
Drew.
What's he?
for Drew.
We're just having a little
Drew's gonna-
conversation
I'm gonna
now.
ask him to get Google Hangouts, and we're just gonna do that. He's got an Apple, he can do it.
So let's maybe test it out Thursday.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be here Thursday?
No, I will.
You will
But
be.
we're
here
gonna
Thursday.
we're gonna test it
You're gonna, I think that's an excellent
with him in the
idea.
room, and then Drew over. Yeah.
Hopefully Tuesday will be, next Tuesday will be interesting.
Are you in Guatemala next week
Yeah, and next week.
and the week after?
Okay, the wonder of modern technology.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
try, listen, I'm gonna try, this is gonna be fun. You ready? I'm gonna stream in the class 30,000 feet in the air. Let's do this.
That'll be interesting.
You're buying Wi-Fi just to come to
I
a
don't know
class?
if you ever Wi-Fi pass.
Oh, okay,
I have so much, it's like, why not? Why pay $18 for an hour when you can pay $100 for a year? You know what I'm saying?
Now I do.
I do know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
I wish I
do
flew
know
that
what you're
much.
saying.
Yeah.
All right, last page, grading criteria.
Are you just trying to look cooler than the rest of us? Are you just trying to look cooler and more impressive than the rest of us?
No, I am not cool at all.
Okay, I'm just making sure you knew your place.
Henry is cool as Bill.
Oh, stop, you
Alex.
bulldozer.
Speaking of-
Alex is intimidating with his beard, so.
Speaking of Bill, that's
Oh,
come
shoot.
back.
Dang it, I already messed up.
It's all right. We're just getting started here. All right, I think we probably already know this, but just so you know that if you get a 90-something, it's an A, an 80-something, it's a B, a 70-something, it's a C, and a 60-something, it's a D.
Yeah.
And anything below that is an F. So, assignment values. This class is based on about 120 hours of work appropriate for an undergraduate 3-hour course at Nebraska Christian College. So, we give you an idea how long I think it'll take you to read the book. Some people are slower, other people are faster. This is like kind of the average. You should be able to read about 20 pages an hour. In other words, about 3 minutes per page. As I said, some of you may go faster, others slower, but this gives you an idea that I anticipate about 21 hours of the class will be spent reading our text. The book reports, I figure about 3 hours per book report. Some of you may take longer than that, others of you may take less than that. That's entirely up to you. There's 30 class sessions that are roughly an hour and a half apiece. And your research and preparation and actual delivery of the sermons, we figure 4 sermons at about 12 hours per. Now, some of you may take longer than that to write a sermon. Some of you may take less than that. But this is kind of the average. By the way, I think you should anticipate when you're in a local church, spending at least that amount of time preparing a sermon. Some would say you should spend about 20 hours on the preparation, the study, the preparation, getting ready to preach a sermon. That may be a challenge, in a full-time ministry to be able to find 20 hours a week to do that. But you should plan. You don't want to cheat your people on your preparation when it comes to delivering a message. So anyway, that adds up to about 120 hours. So that's how we figure that out. All right. Any questions? All right. So next time we'll have class. We're going to have class start about 9:30. Let's have it start at 9:30. How does that sound, everybody? Such a smart aleck. All right, if you see Evan, tell him we missed him today. I'll get him his copy of the. Oh, one more thing we want to talk about today. Yes. We are in need of chapel hosts. We need people to introduce this. What that means is introducing the chapel speaker. We have chapels on Tuesdays and Fridays. What we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time in class, especially those classes where one of you was the chapel host, giving a little bit of constructive feedback on how that went, or maybe talking about how the chapel hosting went that day. So even if it's not one of you, we may, like if I see something that was particularly noteworthy, either in terms of it was really, really good or really, really bad, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. Because probably as a person in the local church, you're gonna have opportunities like that to get up and speak. Not sermons, but, yes, sermons, but other opportunities as well, where you may be introducing a speaker or making an announcement or leading a thought for some part of the worship service or for a group of people, a leadership meeting, and you need to do it well. In fact, I would say that doing like a 3 to 5 minute announcement, in some ways that's more difficult to me than doing a sermon. Because, a sermon you have an opportunity to kind of get into it and develop it. But to get up, make a good point, say it succinctly and clearly, that could be a challenge. So that's why we give you an opportunity to do this. So you should be, I think what the plan is that I'm going to give your names as members of the class to Mr. Cahill and Mr. Dykehouse, and they will be contacting you, I'm guessing by email, but maybe personally, to see about your willingness to participate. This is it's not a required thing. It's an opportunity. It's a volunteer kind of thing. We'd love to have you do that. So.
That's something they'll schedule out far enough in advance.
Yeah, you can pick the day, the Tuesday or Friday you'd like to do it. I think that there may be a worship arts class of some kind that may also be having some people participate, so it won't be just our group. But yes, we will. You'll have an opportunity to pick your date, and you'll want to get acquainted with the speaker. Like if you don't happen to know who the speaker is, like if it's not a faculty member, which is oftentimes the case, you will want to have a chance to touch base with that person ahead of time, just to find out a little bit about them, so it doesn't feel like you're introducing a total stranger. All right? All right. So we're all good? All right, awesome. We're going to have a great semester, guys. I have been looking forward to this class for about 2 weeks. I have been ready for about 2 weeks to teach, so I'm glad the first day of school is finally here, even if it is ridiculously cold here. Drew, enjoy this video. Let me know whether it was really, really good or if you had problems with hearing me, or there weren't too many comments from students yet, but we want this to be as meaningful as we possibly can. So we'll talk to you later. Adios.